Hello, everyone. I hope everyone at home's doing well. Today, we're going to be having another BSL Blethers. And as you know, I'm Avril Hepner, and today's discussion is all going to be about nature and BSL. The reason for the timing of this is because hopefully we're just about in summer, and it might give people an opportunity to guest today. And both our guests will be talking in their own ways about their experience with nature. They'll describe what's important to them. Please, the viewers at home, if you want to put a comment or ask a question, no question is wrong. Any question at all, just put it in the chat, and I'll be able to hopefully be able to ask it for you. So I'd love to introduce Dave Walker, our first guest. Hello, Dave. Lovely to see you. Hope
Hello.
you're well. Could you give a wee introduction about yourself, Dave?
Certainly, I'm Dave Walker. I live in the northeast of England. I have to say it's England, not Scotland. Apologies. I started getting involved in nature and wild things from about the age of 7 up until now, really. I've been going.
Ooh, 7. Oh, we'll have lots of questions for you. Our second guest is Manjeet Cross. Hello, Manjeet. Could you do the same as Dave, please? Hi, my name's Manjeet Cross. That's my sign name. I'm from Scotland. We should have had a third guest today, but unfortunately, just due to technical reasons, it couldn't happen. But I'm delighted to welcome both Dave and Manjeet. So could I ask you both really in turn, and I'll start with you, Dave. What was the thing, or rather that you've got a Facebook page, and the Facebook page, I think we're going to have it below, there it is, British Wild Nature and BSL. You set this Facebook page up, but when and why? Dave, could you give us a bit of an explanation?
Sure. Well, as I said, I've always liked nature. And I noticed there are lots and lots of hearing groups all dedicated to nature on Facebook and other platforms. And I thought, well, where's the offering for deaf people? So I decided to set one up. I set that up in 2019. And since then, lots of people have joined. There are 299 people. And lots of people ask lots of very interesting questions. But there's I'd say it's a majority women membership, very few
Really?
men. I don't know why that is, but I'd like to encourage more men to get involved. And I set that up because, I'm a deaf person. I use sign language. That's my main form of access. And most of the information about nature and wildlife is available in English. So our overriding rule on the Facebook page is everything has to be in BSL. And it needs to be there. It needs to be accessible in BSL. It's not just a kind of as an add-on. That's one of our strict rules. And the other strict rules is that we confine ourselves to British native wildlife. We're not interested in people posting photos from their foreign holidays. That's it really.
Okay, right. Could I just clarify a few things? So you're talking about plants and animals as well, wildlife?
Yeah, wild things. It's very, very difficult, and we've had a lot of frustration because there's quite a lot of people who take part in horticultural competitions, and often they're posting things that are, well, it's debatable whether they are cultivated plants or whether they're wildflowers. So foxgloves, for example, you see them out and about with their tall stand of bells. They are kind of, I think, are they native? Are they non-native? Are they wild? Are they not wild? So we tend not to do garden plants, but it's sometimes very difficult to differentiate between the two. Yeah.
Yeah, I get that.
But also the rarer the better as far as we're concerned. you know, there are some people, some groups who really kind of find a lot of rare plants. So we need to up our game in that respect because we don't find too many rare plants on our group, but we're trying to. And wild animals like badgers and things like that, pretty impossible to spot. We often get foxes, we often get rabbits, and there used to be a lot of hares. Now you don't see many of them around now. I think that's because of road traffic accidents and roadkill. So we
Ah.
seem to be noticing their numbers dropping. Um, Maybe it's the chemicals used in agriculture. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Interesting. Do you know, Dave, it's amazing that you've got rules. I like that you've got rules, so you've got parameters, and that
Yeah.
I suppose the aim is that for your group to go and capture those images.
And it's really educational as well. It means that people in the group learn a lot, because, deaf schools, we didn't really learn much about nature, did
Mhm,
we, right? It
mhm.
wasn't on the curriculum at all, so we didn't know about that. So it's a way of sharing information, it's a way of kind of learning.
Excellent. And I suppose a byproduct as well as the social interaction as well with everybody. But you mentioned competitions.
It's not too interactive. We tend to learn from each other's posts mostly.
Ah, all right. Okay, I'll come back to you, Dave, with more questions later. I suppose the same question to you, Manjeet. What drove you to become interested in nature? Well, my love for nature started when I was very, very young. You know, living in Scotland, we had roses in our front garden and they were different colours. There was yellow, there was pink, there was orange, there was red. And I suppose that was my first sort of visual experience of flowers. And they're now to this day my favourite flower. But what had happened was I used to walk from my corner and see all these different flowers in different gardens. And I could see holly and
Fuchsias.
also, yep, fuchsias and things like that. And I thought, I really like that. But you know, as usual, time gets on. And I moved as an adult to England. And then my son started asking me, do you want to go for a walk in the forest, Mum, in the woods? And I went with him. And I saw bluebells. Oh my goodness, it was floor of bluebells, and they were just everywhere. They weren't even that far from my home, and I was so shocked that this beautiful rich array of flowers just on my doorstep. So I went home, got my camera, and that was really it. I could show you if I've got a photograph to show you the bluebells, but that's when I get hooked. Here it is, Manjeet's carpet of bluebells. And this is rapeseed. Again, for all the eye could see. Oh, that's lovely, Manjeet. You're taking all these photographs to record, you know, the event, or are you going out that day? Dave,
Uh,
sorry, you want
yeah,
to say something?
I did. I just wanted to add about nature. You know, we're all aware of kind of mountains and lakes, and we understand that those are natural. But living nature is very different. You know, we're not talking about kind of mountains and lakes. We focus in our Facebook group on living nature.
Could you give us an example, Dave, of maybe show us a photograph first, and you can give an example of the sundew, for example.
Yep,
Because
that's
I
right,
want to
sundew.
see what this is, sundew. So this is it. Okay. Dave, tell us about it.
Well, as you've mentioned, this is a sundew, and this is very common in Scotland because it likes very boggy peat ground. It really likes that
Ah,
acidic condition, and that's where it tends to grow. Um, in the south, in England, it's too dry, but in the north of Scotland, in some areas, it's very plentiful. Um, and you know, insects and bugs and things. Um, well, I was just going to say that peat doesn't sustain very many plants. But the
Ah,
sundew will grow happily there. It can't get its food from the peat. So what it does instead is, you saw on that picture, it had lots of little filaments sticking out from
ah,
its
like
fronds.
sticky fingers.
And they're very sticky, exactly. And so when an insect flies in, it sticks to those. The sundew closes around it, and then the body of the insect dissolves
Ah,
in the plant's juices, and that's how it feeds itself. It eats insects.
so
Yep.
that's how it gets its food.
Yep. Eats insects. Yep.
Okay, and it dissolves. Does it
Yeah.
take anything?
Anything that steps on it, anything flying, anything crawling, something like that, will close around it.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Tell me.
Well, I mean, that's how it stays alive. It's got to eat. We've all got to eat, haven't we? So that's how the
Okay,
sundew
so
eats.
it's natural.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's tiny. It's a tiny wee
Really?
thing. Oh, yeah, little wee thing. Yeah, easy to miss, easy to step over. Next time you go walking on a peat bogs or anywhere around there, anywhere near water where it's nice and wet, have a look around the edge of the water, and you'll see these tiny little plants. Take a photo.
Wow. And then we should post it in your Facebook
Yeah,
page.
do come and join. Everyone's welcome. Yeah.
Excellent. Oh, thank you for that, Dave. So, Manjeet, maybe, where I've sort of lovely seeing your photographs, and it was so unusual to see all of that. But I mean, I'm talking about myself here, when I'm maybe going for a walk, I might see plants and things that I've never seen before. But you do that as well, Manjeet. So how do you remember what they're called or find out about them? Well, actually, I joined Dave Walker's Facebook page, and there was one person there, and it sort of said who wanted to use my first photograph, and I was a bit like, okay. So,
Tips of how you can take photographs and how you can identify plants with your phone. So if you take a photograph, at the bottom of it, you'll see there's 3 dots. Click on the middle one of those, and you'll get a kind of an indent on your picture. Click in on that, and then it will actually give you the name of the
ah,
flower.
all right, okay. Okay, so for example, if you saw, like, see the purple flower, I think I've got a purple flower to you. If you show that, hang on, Manji, I just want to make sure that the audience understand, right? So, you've taken a photograph of a flower or a plant. Do you then save the photograph?
Yeah,
Okay, and then there's 3 dots on your
yeah,
phone, and one says search. Yep. So you
yeah,
press search, and then it should automatically tell you the name of the plant or flower.
yeah, because it's linked to a website. Yeah, yeah. It automatically links to a
Ah,
website with more information. I've sent you a photo, and it shows you on that photo the little icon that pops up when you click on it. It's the
it's the purple
purple one.
flower. If you just show everyone in their mobile just now, the
And can I
f-
just
the
add to that, when
where are we? So there's the photograph. So what you see the button there, it says search. So you press that, and then the software captures the image and then displays at the bottom the flowers. That's so good. Dave, you wanted to say something there.
Yes, I did want to say that there's another one, for Samsung and Android phones, um, which is called Google Lens, which will do the same
Ah,
thing.
okay.
So you'll need to download that onto your phone, and it will do the same thing. It does rely on having 4G or some kind of signal available. If you haven't got that signal available in the field, don't worry. Just take the photograph and then do it when you get home.
Oh,
So you can capture it, leaves, flowers, anything.
amazing.
It will let you know the information.
Do you remember the olden days when you used to have to look through big volumes
Oh,
books?
backpacks full of books. I honestly used to pack my book. I just have a book on flies, a book on insects, a book on everything in my backpack. Yeah.
And now we've just got this wee portable internet.
Absolutely.
I mean, one flower could maybe have many different names. So, say for example, roses. They've got different names for roses. I suppose because it comes from a family of roses, yeah. And so people maybe are not aware of that. Ah, right. So there's a bit of it is a lot of an education as well. So when we think about nature, I think it's interesting.
Could I just mention something actually? Before we leave rapeseed, that lovely image that Manjeet put up, and there was another image of bluebells. Actually, there are two different kinds of bluebells. There's the English bluebell, and there's I don't have pictures. I'm just talking about the picture that Manjeet showed there. So there's English bluebells, but there's also the Spanish bluebells. So there are
Really?
two different varieties, and there is actually a Scottish bluebell, which is much smaller. Um, English bluebell is obviously the native and the one that was originally wild and natural. Spanish bluebells are mostly kind of cultivated in gardens.
Oh,
Um, but you can identify them because of the different shape. The English bluebell has a slightly bowed flower head,
uh-huh.
whereas the Spanish bluebell will go straight with the bluebell at the top of a straight stem. It doesn't bend very much. It doesn't droop, and the English one bows over. So
Ah,
that's how you identify the
and the
difference.
Scottish one?
And the English one is also smaller than the Spanish.
Oh, now we were out walking, we can now try and identify is it a Scottish wildflower, an English one, or a Spanish one.
That's what I love to do. Yep.
Could we have a look at one of the other photos that you'd spoken about?
Oh, I think we talked earlier about
Yeah,
rhododendrons.
that big long word
I've been
that's
I have
difficult
been
for me.
practicing my spelling. I have been practicing my spelling.
This is a picture of the rhododendrons.
So it's lovely, as you can see. Yeah, really
Yeah.
beautiful. It's beautiful, but it's not a native UK species. It comes from
Really?
abroad. Yeah, it was imported originally way back. People who used to kind of go hunting and shooting birds and things. They wanted somewhere safe for their grouse and whatever to land on the moor. Um, So and also the beaters would, in the old days would kind of disturb them. So they used these plants, rhododendrons, as a soft landing for their kill, and they've actually since spread. But they're very dangerous because they do actually kill native species. They're quite opportunistic. They'll just grow anywhere. They spread very easily. They reproduce very easily. They don't have to have much kind of soil to root into. They can be, and they will kill everything around them. They will kind of spread in the soil. You'll get no worms or anything in the area where the rhododendron is growing. So we do need to take them out.
So, is that kind of bad flower?
From a forestry perspective, yes. From a hey, it's a pretty flower perspective, no, not so much.
Well, I suppose it's about careful management then, I suppose, because
Yeah.
obviously what we don't want is something out of control and killing off other natural wildlife
Yes, because
and,
the
and
leaves are
animals as
very
well.
toxic. The leaves are very toxic. And also, things like worms even, it will toxify the soil underneath it. And so worms will disappear. They'll all die in the vicinity of a rhododendron plant. So they do actually take over. Yeah.
So interesting. Oh, can't believe that. Manji, when you're walking about and having a look at everything around you, how do you feel being in nature? I think really when I started to do like really looking about, it was before lockdown has started. Um, and then when lockdown happened, there really was a sense of what to do, and you really should get out for your mental health's
Mm.
sake and have a look at the world around you. And I definitely believe it reduces depression, anxiety, and stress. And I really do feel it's a massive component of well-being, and it's part of your way to mindfulness. So anyway, what I did was I joined two groups, one a walking group and one a hill walking group. So that was giving me the opportunity to see more of nature and maybe go further afield. But I can remember, unfortunately, when the first time I arrived, because we hadn't seen each other for so long, all the deaf people wanted to chat to each other. So we did this walk and really didn't see anything about other than other people's faces. But we were smart on the way back. We vowed not to talk to each other and just look ourselves on the way back. And we did that, soaked in the atmosphere, took lots of pictures, and then arrived back with all the deaf people with us. Wow, that sounds like an amazing balance. The social interaction is going there, but coming back is the education and the gathering information. But can I ask you, Manjeet, what's been your favourite walk, or are they all much of a muchness? I think at the moment I live in Bonnybridge and I've got a canal near me. So when I walk through different sort of settings and different seasons, it's so different. So if you think about it, it's the same place that I walk through, but in different seasons throughout the year, it looks completely different. I wouldn't say it's my absolute favourite walk. I really love it, and I love the transitions in each of the seasons. But I really do love walking with my friends and family, or even by myself, just looking around me. We've got a comment. It's not a question yet, but it's a comment that's come in. We'll see it at the bottom. It's from Lillian Young. I did not know that about rhododendrons. Poisonous. Thanks for the info. So there you go, Dave.
Yeah, they are
What an
toxic. Yeah.
education today.
Yeah. I just go back to what Manjeet was saying about walking, you know, and I've been on a canal barge, which is lovely, and then just getting off a canal barge and walking, possibly to a pub, possibly, and it just kind of the foliage that's along the canal, the towpath, is lovely. There
And
were
you've got a
some
bee orchard?
bee orchids, yep,
Oh,
bee
bee
orchids
orchids. Thank
along
you.
the towpath, just tiny bee orchids, and I'm just like, wow, those are there. That's amazing. I took so many photographs. Really, I know the council will come and mow them shortly. They always do, which is unfortunate, but
What's a bee orchid when it's at home?
yep. So orchids are they're beautiful little things. They have all kinds of different shapes, but this one, the bee orchid, is so cool because it looks like a bee with its wings out. So it's
Ah.
called a bee orchid for that reason. Yeah.
Oh, lovely.
You can see I posted my photographs on the Facebook group, so if you
I'll
join, you'll be able to see them.
definitely have a look, Dave. But it's you're making me think rather than looking up. Maybe we should be looking down into
Yeah,
our
just
sides
look.
now.
Mm.
I think a good way to encourage people to actually get out in nature is to actually walk through a local place, but through the four different seasons, because that's when you will really appreciate the difference in nature and how it changes the environment. So, as I said, I first went to a canal in the winter and I saw snowdrops and I knew that was spring coming after winter. So I could identify all these different parts of its mini wee ecosystem. And it's just so
Yep.
lovely because you're witnessing life. So I would advise people pick a local place and walk there, but walk there through winter, spring, summer, and autumn. Dave, I think you've got some things you want to show us. What were they again? Uh,
Well, I was thinking about the Scottish pine,
sorry, so
right?
you were.
Because Scotland is famous for its pine. right?
That's
It's a
right.
famous native tree. Everyone knows Scots pine, that's it. And it is actually a native. It originated in Scotland, and they can grow up to, but they can grow for about 700 years before they will naturally fall.
Wow.
Um, so, they're absolutely amazing. They can grow really tall.
So there's no chance of me outliving it?
Well, in the old days, they used to be cut down in the time of wooden ships because they
Ah.
would make beautiful straight masts and beams, spars on the mast. So they were used for that. And they have the most amazing cones. Let me just show you some cones I've got here.
Wow. That's
Yeah, that's
massive.
lovely. It's nice, right?
Oh,
And all fir trees have their own kinds of cones. So there are lots of different varieties and lots of different shapes, like this one and this one,
oh my goodness. Is that from the same family?
or this one and this one,
Oh, okay.
or this
Ah,
one and this one,
tiny one.
or this one. This looks like a rose, doesn't
It
it?
does look like a rose. Wow, and that's a cone.
That's from the Calder tree. So you'll find these all over the UK, the British trees, and the cone will help you identify which tree it is. But they have various sizes. Now, over in America, they do things slightly differently. Um, they do everything bigger in America. They also do their pine cones bigger. Have a look at this.
Oh no. Wow.
Yep.
Oh, you've taken my breath away there, Dave.
This is a Calder pine from America. Coulter pine,
Ah,
Coulter, Coulter pine from America. It grows in the areas where redwoods grow, those
ah.
big sequoia trees. So the same sort of environment. Yeah, there you go. Huge things, aren't they?
So where did you get that? Did you bring it here?
I did, naughty me. I shouldn't have done. Oops.
Oh, can I add something in? See, when you're talking about cone, I've got a funny story. I can remember it was my mum's local area, and we found loads of cones, and we didn't know what to do with them. So we spray painted them and painted them green and gold for Christmas. So there's something else that you can do. You can have the things in nature and repurpose them and make them into crafts for Christmas. Thanks, Dave, for bringing the cones to shows. I've never seen anything like that in my life. Manji, I remember you were telling us something about the trees. Yeah, what it was a couple of weeks ago. I was in London with my friend, and we went to a museum. Well, it was intention to go to museums. So we got off the train, we were walking through the park, and I saw this massive, massive tree. There's just one tree, but it was huge. And my camera's just frozen a wee bit.
Yes, freezing. It's a plane tree. Plane tree.
Okay, a plane tree. So I found out this was the second oldest tree in London. There's supposed to be 10 trees that come into that sort of category of the oldest tree, but that's the second one. And I'm telling you, it was huge. My jaw hit the floor, and I just thought, oh my goodness, there's me walking through a park and there's a tree like that. So it's called a plane tree. Dave, do you know anything about this?
Yes, you'll see a lot of these along lining streets in London, and they'll all be plane trees. They're not so common in the north. I don't think
Okay.
they're very common in Scotland, but you'll find them lining all the streets in London. And there's a reason for that. There's a reason for their planting because trees give out oxygen, right? Everybody knows that. They breathe in CO2 and they give out oxygen. They absorb quite a lot of the bad chemicals from car
Pollution.
exhaust, from
Yeah.
human breath, all that kind of pollution. So they'll absorb, the plane tree absorbs that better than most. So it will absorb all that pollution and give out oxygen. And it kind of its trunk is made up of, I suppose, scales, like overlapping scales, and when
Ah,
they fall off, that's the tree's way of kind of getting rid of the pollution it's accumulated. So it cleanses its local area. It's really amazing.
I suppose then it's a tree that just absorbs pollution then, I suppose?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what will happen when we manage to reduce our carbon footprint. What will happen to those trees in the future? I don't know. Maybe as they die, they'll be replaced. I'm not sure. I don't know.
Oh, that's interesting just to think about the environmental impact as well. Of course, because with things changing, yeah. Oh, that's interesting. But it's just literally called a plain tree and a
Yeah.
massive. Do you want me to show you a
It's
photograph?
easy to identify because of the bark. I don't have a photograph to show you, but the bark is the thing.
I've got one. I've got one. Give me a second. I'll check my phone. Here we go. There it is. If you can see it on the camera. Wow.
Oh, that is massive. That's
Oh my
huge.
goodness. Dave, see if has that been up? Could you, if you took a photograph of that, you could put that in your Facebook page?
Oh, yes, absolutely, because that's a wild tree. That's a wild tree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't done it yet, but I will, Dave, I promise.
Yes, please do.
Okay, there's something else I want to ask you. Do you remember? I remember when I was looking at your Facebook page, there was a, a section on talking about holly. Could you tell
Yeah.
us about holly again?
Okay. Well, everybody knows holly, don't they? So here's holly, very spiky, very prickly.
Is holly just come out of winter?
Oh no, it's evergreen,
All
evergreen.
right. Okay.
So that's why you make Christmas wreaths and so on with it. It's famous for that. But here's another sample. Have a look at this.
What's that?
So this is not prickly at all, right? You can
And
see
it's
from the
holly?
leaves, but this is also holly.
Oh, but they look totally different. One looks jaggy and the other one doesn't.
They're both from the same tree, but you'll find the pricklier leaves at the bottom and the smoother ones at the top.
Why?
Well, it's a kind of adaptation. The prickly ones stop animals from trying to nibble and gnaw and eat at the tree. So it
Ah,
deters predators. And of course, the tree doesn't need to do that at the top unless we've got giraffes, but they're not native in the UK. So I think we're all right. So the leaf edges can be smooth. So it's not only holly that does that. Ivy does the same thing too. Yeah. So let me show you some examples of ivy. So this is the one you'll know.
yep, recognise
Yeah.
that.
The three lobes, the three tripinnate leaf, right? Okay, that's kind of very familiar. Look at this one.
Oh, that looks a lot thicker and a different colour as well.
And again, those 3 points, the three lobes that you see
Yeah.
on this leaf.
Oh, a bit like the Irish.
The shamrock,
Yep.
yeah, no, it disappeared on this one, but it's from the same plant. Again, it's the same plant. And again, it's about adaptation. It starts with the 3 points, 3-pointed leaves. And when it gets to the point where it can begin to flower, it sends out smooth leafed shoots. And they will later send out flowers, which will become berries. And the birds absolutely love them. They absolutely love them. In the winter, they're fantastic food for wild birds. The flowers are kind of later, I think, kind of the end of the summer, something like that. And the berries are perfectly timed for winter to feed the birds. The birds eat them, of course. You know where that's going to come out. Yeah. And so that spreads the ivy everywhere. It's a
Circle
kind
of
of
life.
recycling. Yeah. And it
Yeah.
spreads it. That's why everyone's like, oh, I've got ivy. I'm going to have to pull out all the ivy.
Got it. Well, you know, Dave, that Scotland's famous for what?
Well, famous Scottish flower. Yes, that's it. The thistle. Yeah.
And do you like the thistle? Oh, I love the thistle.
Well, this isn't mentioned much about really until about 400 years ago, when the thistle starts to be seen as the emblem of Scotland. And the story is that about 500 years ago, the Scottish army, wearing their kilts and whatever, were camping out in a field somewhere. And I think it was kind of Norway, it was Vikings or whatever, someone from
That's right, you're
Norway,
right.
some invaders from Norway came. They weren't familiar with the Scottish territory, and the sleeping Scottish soldiers suddenly heard all these yelps and realized that the Norwegian soldiers were standing on thistles. And as they did so, they're trying to creep up on the sleeping Scottish
Oh,
soldiers, but they were standing on these thistles and yelling. And so that saved the Scottish soldiers' lives. And so ever since then, they loved the thistle. That's it.
oh, love that story.
I don't know whether they managed to defeat the Norwegians, but they certainly managed to wake up anyway. That's all I know of the story.
Manjeet, what have you got to say? Oh, I just love that story. And actually, I was having a wee look yesterday to check, and Dave, you were spot on.
Oh, phew.
And what it was they said that the thistle represented the bravery and the strength of the Scottish army. And I just think that was beautiful. And that's what they say. So that's what the thistle is, bravery and strength. Well, I have a question that's come in, and it's from Lillian Young. And it's, what about heather?
I can't answer that, I'm afraid. Unfortunately, Stuart Healy, who was supposed to be here, would have been able to answer that. And unfortunately, he wasn't able to join us because of Wi-Fi. But yeah, not my domain, I'm afraid.
Yeah, we could maybe put that question in the comments and we'll get Stuart to answer it later.
Sure.
Fantastic. Because heather is synonymous with Scotland, isn't it?
Indeed, indeed.
Yeah, so it'd be interesting to know if it was native.
On the North Yorkshire moors, we have quite a lot of heather as well. So I'm wondering whether it is.
Also, North and South Uist, I've got loads of heather.
So I don't know whether it is a
North Uist
native Scottish.
and the Western Isles, they have it as well, loads of heather. So keep your eye open for it.
I think, again, it grows well where there's peat. Boggy
You're
conditions,
right,
peat conditions.
there's
So
plenty of
it
that
might be
in Ireland.
that. Like ferns. I think, where there's a kind of rich compost of ferns, it grows in those kinds of conditions. So
Yeah,
perhaps it just doesn't grow where there isn't peat.
yeah. The islands are full of peat, and I think that's why heather thrives there. I think I'm going to have to put some more photographs on Facebook after this. So, guys, the next thing I want to ask you about is the dreaded weed. Everybody hates the weeds. You want to try and kill them, but are weeds good or bad? Are they getting a bad press? They're natural.
Well, this is interesting because the word weed, I mean, what does it actually mean? It just means a plant that's in the wrong place at the wrong time, one that you don't want. So a weed can be anything, can't it? If it's in the wrong place. The same plant in the countryside can look beautiful when it's in its wild environment, but you don't want it in your garden. So it really depends on your perspective, on your point of view. What you think is a weed might be a beautiful wildflower to me, and I might love it. I might want to cultivate it. I might want to keep it. But or you might appreciate it in the countryside, but not in your garden. So it's really a question of perspective.
Yeah, that's clever. Yeah, I like that. So, for example, you sometimes you see in your local home, you maybe see some of the wee wildflowers, or you've got beds of things, and then you see like a dandelion or something popping up, and you're trying to sort of kill it. Maybe it's coming up through decking and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, suppose if you've got if you've got your decking, right, and what comes up is an English bluebell. Is that a weed or is it not a weed? Is it something you would want to pull out,
Good question.
or would you leave it? And if you'd leave that, why would you pull out others? It's that debate, right?
Could I ask Dave a question, Dave? I know most people in the who do gardening are fed up with weeds, they're just always there. But, if they don't want to use sort of weed killers, is there anything natural you can use? What was that? Could you say that again?
I think just boiling water. Boiling water will kill
What?
plants. Yeah, they don't like it. I mean, don't put it everywhere. Target it to the plant that you don't want to survive,
Wow.
and just boiling water will kill it. Yeah.
So it shouldn't grow again, or it might grow?
Well, often these plants have very, very strong wills, and they are quite determined, and they will come back, which is a good thing.
Looks like Dave's supporting the natural. I don't want to call it a weed now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why, certain plants in the garden, they crossbreed them, they cultivate them, they mix them with all sorts of things. And I think, what's wrong with the plants and the flowers that we've got? They're beautiful.
It's true. I think it is. It's a changing of attitudes. I think, we
Yeah,
need people to understand.
I mean, I don't know what it's like in Scotland, but here where I live, roundabouts and borders and, kind of they will just get wiped, by the
Could you
council.
repeat that again, Dave? Because your camera froze for a wee second.
Sorry, yeah, I was saying I don't know how it is in Scotland, but here where I live, the roundabouts and the verges by roads are full of wildflowers, and the people are trying to spread wildflowers and encourage them. There's a kind of no mow movement,
Oh, I like
which
that.
is lovely.
And I think Manjeet was right. It's attitudes. People have to start to look at it and
It
be
is, yeah.
positive about our nature. I mean, the hot boiling water, I've never heard of that and I will try it. Um, Dave, you mentioned you were going to show us those objects. I don't want to say what it is, but if you can
Yeah.
start.
So obviously, around the coast of Scotland, there's a lot of kelp that grows, a kind of seaweed that's really thick, that big, thick, frondy
Yeah.
seaweed. It can grow up to 30 feet. It's huge. It waves about in the water in these kelp forests in the water. And that's that kind of, particularly on the east coast of Scotland. I'm not sure about the west so much, but particularly on the east coast of Scotland, that is very much a phenomenon. Um, and you'll find something eating those kelp forests, and it's called a sea urchin.
I
A sea
see.
urchin.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What does that look
Beautiful little
like?
thing. Looks like a little ball, a kind of squashed ball, and it's covered in little spikes that vacillate in the water, and it crawls along. I'll show you the shell of one.
Ah, that's so beautiful.
It would be covered in more spikes than this because it's dead. The spikes fall off gradually, because it's fossilized. But you can see inside there, that would be its mouth.
Okay.
So it would move along like this. And yeah, its number twos would come shooting out of the top. And its mouth would be on the bottom. And it would eat its way along the fronds of the sea kelp.
So the
And
mouth
it's
takes
sort of,
in, got her.
yeah, it kind of it opens and closes its mouth like this. It's a hard mouth, like a sort of bony mouth. It's got like sort of 5 bony elements, and they open and close like a sort of pincer movement, I suppose.
Lovely.
And when it's dead, those drop off, so you don't see those. But yeah, you can see these stripes on the side. There's always 5 segments, and it comes from the same family as starfish.
Ah.
Yeah, so the same family as a starfish. And at some point in the family tree, it branched off. But aren't they beautiful?
So it's almost like a starfish curled up.
Yes, yeah. So it evolved into this shape. Yeah.
Where did you find it, Dave?
Sorry, what?
Where did you find that one?
How did I find it?
Yeah, and where? And was it hidden, or how did you get it?
Okay,
Did you
2
have
things to
to go
say.
there and
I
deep
used to
dive down?
yeah, I did used to be a diver, so that's the first thing to say. I used to
Ah,
be a diver, and once you're underwater, they're very easy to see. Um, but also low tide, when the tide is far out, um, uh, so spring tide, um, where it comes quite far in, And
Okay.
there's one that comes in, every leap year is a kind of, so the leap spring tide comes even
Oh.
further in, and that's a great time. That's a great time because you can just walk out and
Huh.
see them under the water and pick them. And as I said, inside it has kind of, well, eggs, but the proper name is roe, but they're
Okay.
tiny eggs. So they're little roe, R-O-E. Some people eat them. I'm not sure that they're too tasty, but some people find them a delicacy,
Not for me.
and will eat them.
Yeah. No, thank you. I'll just visit them.
But look, these you can be found abroad as well, but they tend to be smaller. Look at these little ones.
They're different colours as well.
And you see again the
Wow.
5. Yeah. Yeah. 5 segments, 5
Yeah.
segments. So there we are. Um, You find them on the sea, on beaches abroad. If you step on something, a little kind of black round shape under the water, it'll
Particularly
be something like
Mediterranean.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah, be something like this.
Wow.
They're normally black when you see them under the water.
Oh, that's amazing. I've learned so much today. I can't believe it.
Oh, you're welcome.
Is it Manji, if you get anything or Dave, anything sort of tips, linked to nature? Is it better to go maybe in the morning or the evening? Or, well, do you know what, Afro? It really is about you and it's what you like. Some people are morning people. Some people like doing it before work. Some people like doing it at lunchtime just to get a break from work and just need that reboot, and switch off for a bit. Some people like it in the evening. So there's no hard and fast rules. It's just about what you feel benefits you. So there is no specific time, I would say. But what about you, Manjeet? Well, I'm an evening person, and that really is because I'm working during the day. But on a Saturday and a Sunday, and sometimes maybe on a Monday, I go out in the morning. So I like it. I particularly love a Sunday morning because it's so quiet, and a Sunday's just a lovely day to walk about. So we've been talking a lot about plants and flora and fauna and everything else, but we haven't mentioned sort of wild animals. So Manji, if you get anything to tell us about wild animals in Scotland? Well, Avro, I was in England, not Scotland, and I was walking through just a pathway and I spotted a frog. It was light brown. I would actually say it was more of a bronzy colour. I've got a photograph, and I saw this caterpillar with the most beautiful bright colours. I mean, it just stood out there. And I did wonder if it was an actual caterpillar myself. I thought it could be something different.
Did you take a photo and try and
I
find it?
did.
Yeah.
I did. So there are two things that I saw that really shocked me. And I think when I'm looking, I look at, I reflect, and I think I've walked about and I've missed the tiny things. I've missed the things that that are there. And so now what I've done is I've sort of tuned my eyes and my brain into looking at different places. So looking down low for other things, but also particularly birds, because I found that I'm really drawn to looking at birds as well. I know you've got a story, a funny
Oh,
story.
a
Come
shameful one.
on,
I will never forget. Do I have to tell this
come on.
story? Do
Yes,
I?
yes. The deaf community need to know this. We need a good laugh. Come on,
Oh,
Dave.
okay.
Will we show the first
Well, I'm gonna
photograph?
leave when I've done this story. I could to cover my shame. Okay. So, okay, let me tell you the story first before I show you the images. Right. I can't this must be before COVID. So we're looking 3, 4 years ago. I was staying in Lancashire,
Okay.
having a long weekend, a nice restful long weekend. It was lovely. Log cabins, little wooden cabins, and there was a lake outside in front of us, really beautiful. You could sit with a door open, just look out. And in the middle of the lake was this tiny Well, I suppose it kind of a heap of soil, really, like a little islet, a tiny island. You could only enough to have like one person standing on it. It was this tiny little piece of land. And the person I was with said, "Look at that over there. Look, there's something on the island." So I got my binoculars out and I was like, "I cannot believe this. That is a pelican." There was a
Pelican.
pelican on this island. You know, the ones that catch fish and store
Yes.
them underneath their beaks. So I was like, I was so excited. I got my camera out, got the lens on, took a photograph. I thought it's too small. It's too small. I need to get closer. So I zoomed in, took another photograph, zoomed in again, took a third one. Thought, that's it. Let me show you the photographs. They're amazing.
Okay, so this is
So that's
photograph number
yeah,
one.
that's the first one. Yeah. Oh, there's
Oh,
another. Should be another
can you see the
photograph as
second
well.
as
This is the
well?
second one. Yeah. So getting a
Lovely.
bit closer. You can see it up close a bit more. Look.
Wow. Right, Dave. So, what's the
Yeah, so I
story?
was so excited. I got these photographs. I was like, oh, absolutely. I mean, they're beautiful images, right? I was kind of like,
Mhm.
in the UK, pelicans are not native. So I was like, why is this bird here? It's come all the way here. I've managed to catch it. Has it escaped from somewhere or something like that? So anyway, time passed. I bumped into a pal, the guy who ran the holiday place, and I said, "Do you know? I've just managed to see this bird on your property." Um, and the guy, sorry, say it again. Say it again. You froze. I said, "This is amazing. There's this bird on your property. It was amazing." He said, "No, I put it there. It's a fake. It's a fake.
It's
It's
a
plastic."
fake.
I felt so stupid. I'd been so excited
Oh,
about these pictures. I know. I know.
well,
I'd put them on Facebook. I was like, "Oh, look at this. Look, I've seen a pelican. How good am I? I'm so amazing." I had to come back and go, guys, sorry, Facebook, it wasn't a
oh,
pelican. I
you'd be
felt so
banned
small.
from the
The
Facebook.
ground could have opened up, tell you.
Oh, the oldest trick in the book you fell for, Dave.
I
Oh,
know.
that was a fun
Expert should know
story.
better, right? Yeah, too far
Amazing.
away. That's my excuse. It was so far away. I couldn't quite tell.
You know, that reminds me when I was at Loch Ness, or rather, it reminds me of Loch Ness. Maybe Nessie's
What, you
there.
think
Keep it
someone's
pop
put that
up.
in there as well?
Who
Yeah, I
knows?
have been to
Who
Loch Ness
knows?
many times, but I've not seen anything yet.
I've been to Loch Ness, but I haven't seen Nessie. I've went in the boat Nessie hunting, but I haven't seen her.
I just like the myth to continue. I like that. You
Me
know, it
too.
draws the tourist, doesn't it?
Ah,
Brings in the money.
I totally agree. Both of you see when you're out in nature, when you're using your mobile phones or using binoculars, what's the best way to sort of
Well, I
take it
never
in?
use binoculars. I don't know if we're the same, Manjeet, because it's too much equipment to carry around. And also, binoculars are great for birding, but um, I think hearing people hear the bird first and then they can train their binoculars to where they hear the sound. But as a deaf person walking around, you know, by the time you've seen the bird, it's in flight. So your
Yeah,
binoculars are no
yeah,
use. So I think that's how hearing people do it, and I don't have access to that. I rely on my eyes only. So
yeah.
binoculars aren't that useful to me. Um, I use my mobile. I use that. I make sure it's good quality. I like a good mobile. I'm not going to advertise any particular brand, but
You
I like a good
correct,
quality
Dave.
mobile. I think that's important. I tend to bring another camera as well for like micro, real close-up shots. So I switch between those two pieces of equipment, but that's all I take.
Manjeet? Well, at the moment, I tend to use my iPhone, sorry about that, but I use my phone and again, high quality. So take photographs, and I've got another camera. But really, the iPhone's useful because you can link it to the website so you can get information from it. But really, I'm hoping for the future. I would love to have a proper SLR, that I could do zoom shots and close-ups and things like that. I'd obviously have to learn how to use it. I really would love to photograph animals and some flowers and things like that, but really in detail.
I totally agree. I mean, some of those zoom lenses for birds that are in the distance or animals that are in the distance, particularly if they're rare, you know, or particularly animals that like to come out at night, you know, if they're nocturnal and they sleep in the daytime, um, you know, yeah, you need that equipment.
You know, I mean, there is another option is that if you go up early in the summer,
Yeah,
it's a bright day,
yeah,
4,
true.
5 in the morning, the early I mean, even get up at 3 waiting for 4 o'clock. You will be
Yeah, if
surprised
you've
to
got
see what's
some
out there.
sense of where an animal might be, or I mean, you just randomly wandering at 3 o'clock in the morning is probably not wise. But if you've got some idea of where something might be,
Well, I'm hoping to do that. That
definitely not.
that
That's not
I
me.
definitely want to get up for, the sun rising, and I'm just wanting to see when the sun rises if the natural environment changes or not, and I want to try and capture that.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
I mean, we know that, because of climate change, our natural environment is suffering and we need to do something about it. But can I ask both of you, when you're out in nature, are you worried as well? Or do you think we might be okay? What do you think?
Um, I can't remember the newspaper. The one newspaper anyway during lockdown. Um, was talking about how quiet the streets were
Mhm.
because of the lack of human traffic and vehicular traffic, and the animals actually came out into the streets. And as soon as we lifted lockdown, they went back out into hiding
Right,
again.
I
So it's
remember
so
that.
unfortunate, isn't it?
Yeah. Did any of you get a chance to see it, take photographs during lockdown?
No. Well, I did a lot of walks in lockdown, so I took lots of photographs, and then put them on Facebook. Yeah, I did a lot of that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I can remember some deaf people putting pictures of maybe like sheep in town, deer in different places.
Yep,
They were popping up in different villages
I
in
saw the
Scotland.
sheep.
Yeah. I think for myself, and I'm looking at the environment, we look at when we have to look at the sea, we think about almost like, well, some people when they go to the sea or they go to seasides and they release balloons or you know different things like maybe like with the candles and things like that for memory of people. But actually, although it seems a lovely thing to do for someone who's passed, it's actually very dangerous for the animals because
Yep.
when they land they can kill them. And also people throwing rubbish and it get ending up in the sea. uh, you know Animals and wildlife can get really damaged. Cornwall is a natural beauty, but a very good role model for having local people on beach patrol. And it was a deaf lady, it was on BSL Blethers, who told me about this, and I learned from her. So that's good to know that our Blethers are influencing people and affecting change and good change. Dave, did you want to say something?
Yeah, just to come back to something that was said there, you know, um, one of the best things, in terms of commemorating people with these helium balloons and all of that kind of thing, maybe the best way to remember someone is plant a tree because that's something you could come back to. The tree will go. A helium balloon is just going to disappear and form
True.
pollution, but a tree will grow or a plant will grow. And when we're talking about the environment, yes, I fear for the environment. I think a lot of wildflowers kind of spreading across roundabouts and verges and in gardens it gives me hope. I think that's a positive thing to see.
Well, I totally agree with you, Dave, because one of my friends did that. She planted a tree
Yeah.
for her grandmother, and I planted a rose bush for my mum when she passed. I've completely lost my thread now. I was going to answer your question about the environment. Sorry, Afro. Would you believe it? It is actually just about 1 o'clock. We
Wow.
have just been chatting for 1 hour, guys. And I know we could have stayed here for hours and got more in depth, but it's been fabulous. So I think because of time, and I think the only thing I've got left to say is to ask you if you've got any last things, tips you want to say to anyone,
Or
or
please email me if you want to join the Facebook page. Everybody welcome. Or just hop in on the Facebook page. There's the link. It's just popped up now. That's the name of the group. Just click on that and join it. There are 3 questions to make sure that you understand the rules, that you're going to communicate in BSL, and that's it. And once you've clicked on those 3, you're in. But you're very welcome.
could I ask Dave, is it monthly that you do some sort of talk or something?
Oh, yes, that's a good point. Actually, every month we have a kind of photo competition.
Ah, that's what.
Sometimes it gets a little delayed, you know, March tips into April or whatever, but we have a flower competition that's just gone by. Now we're having a bird competition at the moment. That's
Ooh.
open. We've got some lovely contributions coming in already, some lovely entries. So if you join, you'll get notification of the competition next month. So it's not a competition of photography skills and who has the best lens. It's about who captures the rarest thing, or
Wow.
something that we haven't seen before. And we have first, second, and third prizes.
I just love that idea of just sharing that knowledge and doing something
And encouraging
that,
people to get
yeah,
out. Yeah,
yeah, it's education, it's fun, it's
it
social,
is.
it's everything. Oh, I love it. Manjeet, the final word to you. I think for me, I just want to say 2 things. Please join Dave's Facebook page. You will, I could highly recommend it.
And
You'll
no, it's
thoroughly
not my
enjoy it.
Facebook page. It's
Ah,
everybody's Facebook page. It's not mine. It's not
well,
mine.
I mean the BSL nature. Apologies. But you're the admin, Dave, so you've got
I do the admin.
responsibility.
Yeah.
And the second thing is I would love to encourage people just to go out themselves and just
Yeah.
have a look around you. You know, honestly, I swear you will recognize trees you've never seen before.
Yeah.
You'll just notice these things. Uh, just put yourself in a kind of pause moment and just soak it all in. You don't need to rush through life. You know, even when you're driving and you're stopped at lights, you can look at things and things like that. When you're walking
Absolutely.
in the street, you know, just let those eyes take things in, observe. I think that's what I would say.
And remember, things on our Facebook page must be British, wild, and living nature. That's what we're looking for.
Right. So,
No,
yeah.
we're not looking for garden plants and cultivars. And I mean, they're lovely, but you might want to join a different Facebook group for that. Ours is focused on British wild nature.
Oh, that's fantastic. I cannot thank both of you enough for
I enjoyed
coming
myself.
today. Honestly, it was so interesting. I've learned so much. And for our viewers at home, if you want to know more, have a wee look at Dave's Facebook page. Just finally to say thank you to Dave and Manjeet for your time.
Well, thank
And
you. And thanks for
bye
hosting.
bye to everyone at home.